Hello YouTube, Steeler Boy here, back with the third in a series of videos about how to set up FSX and various add-ons. If you remember, in the first two videos so far we've looked at installing FSX itself, the base program, that's the Steam Edition, as well as installing and setting up FSUIPC. And then in the second video we looked at installing and setting up EasyDock Camera. So if you haven't already seen those two videos and would like more information, then by all means go back and check those out. But in today's third episode I'm going to be looking at the installation and setting up of SPAD, which is Saitek Panel Advanced Drivers, and this is actually the next generation version. The first version of SPAD actually came out quite a few years ago now, and I believe that development has actually stopped on that. There is no more support, no more development on the original version, which is why this site, or this group, fsgs.com, has been set up and they've released SPAD Next Generation. So what is SPAD? Well, basically, if you've got Saitek hardware, such as the multi-panel or the switch panel, or even things like the yoke and the throttle quadrants, the pedals, etc., then basically the default Saitek drivers that come with the hardware are basically not that good at all, in all honesty. They are not that clever. So what happens is we've got a third-party organisation that's come to our rescue and they've released SPAD. And it gives you basically advanced drivers, an advanced configurator tool that allows you to set up the switch panels and multi-panels to work perfectly with FSX. So how do we get it? Well, you go to this website first of all, as you can see on stream, which is fsgs.com, www.fsgs.com/forum, and it gives you this page to start with. All you need to do is, you can see the current release as I'm recording this right now is release 08.8, released on the 18th of January 2016. So I'm going to click on downloads up here. And this brings us to this page. The current public release is 0.8, so I'm going to get that. And it takes you to this page here. Now, there are two requirements. The first is that the Saitek Direct Output Driver 64-bit version 7 or newer must be installed. So I've actually gone ahead and downloaded that. You can click on that link there and get that yourself. The other thing is that SimConnect must be enabled within SPAD Next. Now, let me point out something here. The basic version of SPAD is free of charge. Yep, it doesn't cost you a penny to download and use. However, that free version is limited. It gives you enough support and enough facility, enough features to actually configure and operate the Saitek switch panels and multi-panels in the basic version. However, if you would like more support, if you would like control of your PMDG 737 and various other aircraft, you would need to get the registered version, and that actually uses SimConnect. The free version, the one which I'm going to show you how to install and set up today, that uses FSUIPC. Now at this stage I am not going to go for the paid version. Let me just bring up, if I show you, where are we? Somewhere I had, here we go. Okay, so as I've already said, the free version, the unregistered version, gives you enough support to be going on with. It allows you to set up your Saitek multi-panels and your switch panels. However, if you want these things in green, if you want support for your PMDG aircraft, your Aerosoft Airbus, things like the flight yoke and the quadrant and the trim wheel, rudder pedals, etc., you will need to get the registered version, which is €24.99 plus VAT, and that's from SimMarket. Bear in mind though that in the very first video that I did in this series I showed you how to set up and install FSUIPC. Now that also has a registered option, and within the registered option you can set it up to work with all of your equipment, you know, your ProFlight yoke and your pedals, etc. I showed you how to do that in that first video. So you've already paid out good money, possibly, for FSUIPC, the registered version. In my mind, I don't think you need to pay again to set it up for this. However, I'm not entirely sure, because I don't have the registered version of SPAD, I don't know what support, for example, it gives you for the PMDG or the Aerosoft Airbus. I don't know what the extra support is. But for today's video, it's going to be the free version. So all you do, once you've installed this requirement output driver, you scroll down to the bottom of the page, download, there's your installer link. Click on that. That will download a zip file, which I've already got here and unpacked. And within the zip file, you'll find Windows Installer Package. Now, I did have this installed earlier on, before I started recording, and I'm glad I actually tried things out. This is one of those situations where rehearsals pay off, because there are a few issues, right? There are a couple of pitfalls that you need to be aware of. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and double click on the installer. Okay, it says welcome to the SPAD Setup Wizard. Click on next. And yep, you accept the terms and conditions, etc. Right, this is the first page you need to pay attention to. By default, it will try and install the program into C program files. That will not work. You need to click on Custom, the middle option, Custom Installation, highlight the middle option, which is SPAD. Then it says, right, okay, the location, as you can see, it's trying to put it into program files. Again, that will not work, trust me. I installed it about 3 times and wondered why the program was crashing every time. It would not open, it would not work. I then read the manual, which is always a handy thing to do, and it says do not put it under program files. Put it under the root C folder. So I'm going to go ahead, click Browse, and I'm just going to remove this middle folder, program files, and put it directly into its own folder, C SPAD Next. Click OK, and then click on Next. And there it goes, whizzing away, installing the program. Right, now you'll get a pop-up like this. Just simply click yes, that's fine. No problems installing that as well. Click Finish, job done. That's it installed. As simple as that. Installation is a breeze once you're aware that you must not put it in the program files directory. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up now. Hopefully it will spring into life. There we go. Right, that is the program. Now, it'll come up with various warnings. Don't worry about those at this stage. They're not too important right now. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK down here. Okay, so there's the program spun up, and this is the first screen you'll see. I'm just going to go and click a new profile to start with. So to do that, we go to Settings, down to Profiles, and I'm going to click on New Profile. And I'm going to call it Cessna 172 because the profile that I'm going to set up today is literally for the basic default Cessna 172. Nothing fancy, just a basic profile really. Now I'm going to click on Activate Profile, which is the second icon to the left. Click on that. And now what we need to do is we need to copy the default XML over to this new profile. And the way we do that is if you hover over the second icon from the right, it says Copy to Active Profile. Click on that. Click OK. Profile settings copied successfully. Yep, there we go. And that's it. That's that done. That's the Cessna 172 profile all set up. So we go back to devices. Okay, so I've actually got 2 devices. I've got the switch panel, which is this one here, and then the multi-panel. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring in my webcam, which I've actually got showing the 2 devices. So here we go. The top one is the multi-panel, and the bottom one is the switch panel. As you can see on screen at the moment, it's showing the multi-panel. So we'll go ahead and set this up. So what do we do? Well, if we just turn the switch here to the left, if I just turn that, you'll see on the screen here on the configuration how the same button is turning as well. Yeah, so that's mirroring that. If I go for the button here, or the knob here, again the same knob on the configurator screen turns. And similarly with the auto throttle, you can flick that across, that switch goes, the flaps, everything actually works as it should do. It actually triggers the appropriate button on the configurator. However, we actually need to set it up because at the moment the buttons don't do anything. Yes, they turn, but they're not actually configured to do anything. Okay, so now that we've got the profile set up, it's time to start configuring the panel. Now, what I'm going to do first of all is to fire up Flight Simulator FSX Steam Edition. I'm going to start that because you will not see, although you can see the various switches turning, things like these buttons, etc., they won't really have an effect on the panel itself, but you will see them working in Flight Sim. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start FSX and then come straight back. See you in a tick. Okay, welcome back. As you can hear, I've got FSX, well, hear and see. I've got FSX running now. The engine's all fired up so that we don't drain the battery. But what I want to demonstrate is if I press the autopilot master button here, which is this button down here, you'll see that nothing happens. Yeah, we haven't configured it as yet. Nothing happens. We can click on it in the sim and it lights up and disconnects, but pressing this button here has no effect. So what we need to do is we need to go to SPAD configuration and we need to set up this button here. So the way to do that, click on it and go to configure autopilot on off. We need to click on the button pressed. Click on this one here, and I'm trying to put it into a bit of screen. There we go. So select the action, and for some reason, hang on, it always does this when it needs to be simulation control. There we go. Simulation control. Control to send needs to be AP master, which again, let me just move this window over here so you can see. AP master, that's the one we want. Click OK. Click the save button here, and then the save button down here. So again, button pressed, FSUIPC control autopilot master. Click on that, and now if we go to the sim, if I now press the AP button here, then you should see this light here light up. Let's see if it works. Yay! There we go. So we've now configured the first of our buttons for autopilot master. Right, let's do something else. Let's set up the rotary dial here so that when we turn it to the right, the altitude will increase, and when we turn it to the left, the autopilot altitude will decrease. So let's go ahead and set that up. So again, configure altitude. We need to set the, well, first of all, we'll do the clockwise turn. We'll set that up first of all. I just kind of bring that down a little bit. There we go. So the clockwise turn. Click on settings, and we want that to, again, simulation control. Apologies with the graphics here. I'm not quite sure what's happening. It only seems to be when FSX is actually in the background when it's running. There we go. Simulation control, that's what we're after. And we need it to be autopilot altitude increase. That one there. Autopilot altitude via inc. That's when we turn it to the right. Okay, click on save, and then we do the same for a counterclockwise turn. Again, it needs to be, I just realized you can't see that, can you? Let's do that again. There we are. In fact, let me just get rid of FSX. I'm just going to minimize that. There we go. Right, okay, let me just go through these screens again because I don't think you saw that with my webcam being in the way. I'm just going to turn the webcam off a second. There we are, right. Let me go through this again. So first of all, for the clockwise turn, if I can drag it over there, clockwise turn, I went to settings, I chose simulation control from the drop down here, and then I chose FSUIPC AP altitude var inc. That's for the clockwise turn. For counterclockwise, you do similar, except, so we choose simulation control. This time it has to be AP decrease. AP alt var decrease. we want it to go the other way. So we want to save that. And now we've got those two set up. What we also need to do, if we don't set anything up for the display, it won't change. Yeah, nothing will change on the display itself. So go into settings. This time choose simulation data, not control, data. The data definition, we want FSUI PC again, we want autopilot, and we want AP altitude value, that one there. Okay, so quick recap: simulation data when you're setting up the display, and then it's the AP altitude value. Okay, click on save. That's all three things set up. We've got the display set up to be the altitude value, clockwise turn, and the counterclockwise turn. Let's save that. And I don't know if it'll work. Oh, there we go, it does work. Right, now that is the value on the screen, as you can see. Let me bring in my webcam again. Okay, and as you can see, the value on my hardware now matches the value on the program. Let me turn this dial again. 400, 500, 600, 1000, and then back down again. So that's perfectly in sync. So we can set an altitude, I don't know, of 2,000 feet for example, and it's now showing there as well. Let me go to the flight sim, and as you can see on the flight sim it's set up as well. If we turn the knob on the hardware, then the value down here on the altitude also changes. So that's set up perfectly. Okay, that's the altitude set up, and really you do the same thing for each and every button. Let's just try one more so that you get an idea of what to do. This time we'll try the altitude hold button here. So click on that, go to configure altitude hold. Let me turn my webcam off again because otherwise you won't see anything. Right, so button pressed. So we go to settings, we go to simulation control, and we want the AP altitude hold. Scroll down, there it is, AP alt hold. Select that, click OK, click to save, save again. Now again, you'll probably find that nothing actually changes in there. Oh, there we go, altitude hold to 700. We can increase that, maybe hold again. Let me though bring up flight sim, and you'll see this kick in. In fact, you can already see that the altitude has changed. Now it's gone to 700. You might be wondering why it's gone to 700. I'm actually at Leeds Bradford Airport and the altitude is about 700 feet, the elevation of the airfield. So that's why it's set to 700. Basically set to ground level. But let me just turn off the autopilot master again. So altitude hold basically holds the altitude that you're currently at. So if I was flying at 2,000 feet for example, and I press altitude hold, in fact let me just bring in my webcam again so you can see. There we go. So alt, and watch for the corresponding button light up here. So I'm going to press altitude hold. Now use your imagination, and for example we are flying at 2,000 feet, let's say. I'll press altitude hold. There we go. Altitude light is on and the autopilot light comes on as well. We are now holding 2,000 feet in our imaginary flight. But because we're at ground level at Leeds Bradford, we're at 700 feet. So again, I'm going to disconnect the autopilot. Job done. So let me go back. So that gives you a kind of brief example of how to actually set up all the various buttons and dials here. So you do that for each and every one of these buttons and dials. Let me just go now to the switch panel, and we'll do something similar for the switch panel. Now here we've got various switches. As you can see, they all work. I'm clicking. In fact, I think you can just see that, can't you? Let me see if I can move my cam over a bit. There we go. So as I'm clicking the buttons on the hardware, you can see the relevant buttons or switches working on the configurator. Everything's good. The gear and the magneto switches, they all work fine. Now let me just bring up Flight Sim, because I admit I have not yet tried the switch panel. They may or may not work. Let me just go down to my switches here. Right, let me see if the avionics master works, for example. And again, I'm struggling. Yeah, there we go. So the avionics master button is here in the aircraft, and it's right here on the hardware. Right, nothing happens because we have not set up that switch yet. Okay, nothing's happening. This switch here is not working, so we need to go back to the configurator. There we go. Okay, so what we need to do is to configure the avionics master button. So if we click on it, go down to configure avionics master. At the moment it's unconfigured, so to switch on we obviously need that to be avionics master on. So if we go to simulation control and then we select from here, this needs to be somewhere, avionics master. The fun thing about these things is actually finding the one you need. Because there are hundreds and hundreds of various options, you need to find the right one to assign to the button. Right, we do have a toggle avionics master. It might be that one. Okay, I'm going to choose that one for switch on, and for the switch off I'm also going to choose the same thing, just to see what happens. So simulation data, and I'm going to choose avionics master again. Right, sorry, I've just closed that before you saw what was happening, didn't I? This one. Right, so I've got both actually set to the same thing, toggle avionics master, switch on and switch off. I just want to see what happens, because this should work, but I'm not entirely sure. I haven't configured this one before, so I'm going to go back into Flight Sim. Okay, this is the button that we're looking for. This is the white rocker switch here. This is the avionics master. So I'm now going to click or switch the hardware button and see what happens. There we go. And switches it on and off. I've actually got it the wrong way round at the moment. In other words, the simulator is out of sync with the switch. At the moment it's on, but as you can see the avionics are off. Yeah, so I'm going to switch it on. Now everything comes back into life. The radios are on. I switch it off and the radios go dark. Yeah, on, off. Let me move the camera so you can see the cockpit. There we go. So everything's dark. Here's the radio stack. If I switch the avionics master on, everything comes to life. So that's that switch configured. And again, you do the same for each and every button. All of these buttons on the hardware you configure in the same thing, the same way. You simply need to find the relevant action in the drop down of the hundreds that are available for the right one to choose. Let's set up one more. Which one can we set up? Let's set up the navigation lights, which is this one here. All important. I'm just going to move. Again, I've got the webcam in my way. I do apologise. There we are. Right. I'm going to set up this one. This switch here, which is the navigation lights. So let's click on that. Configure nav. So switch on. We need simulation control. And we need to toggle the navigation lights, which is this one, toggle nav lights. Going to click on that, and I'm going to choose the same again for the switch off position. Toggle nav lights. Click OK. Save, save. There we go. So the button works. Let's see if it actually works in FSX. Bring up the flight sim again. The nav lights are here. Currently it's saying my nav lights are off. If you look at the hardware, the nav lights are off, so I'm actually just going to flick them off. Right, now I'm going to switch them on using the hardware, and watch this rocker switch here. This should now go to the on position. So on, there we go, off, on, off. And that's about it. That is how you set up SPAD. As you can see, it works pretty well. Yes, it's a little bit convoluted in setting things up, but I also think that's actually the power of the program. You can set it up how you want. If you wanted to, and I don't know why you would, but if you wanted to, you could actually relabel all of these switches. You can have these switches working whatever you want. As long as the corresponding action is available in FSUI PC to send to the flight sim, then you can set it up. I'll tell you what we'll also do. We'll go back to the multi-panel and we'll set up the flaps, because flaps are all important, yeah? So if we go to flaps and go to configure flaps. Right. Now move down one notch. This is what we're configuring. Move down. So we need to activate short. Click on settings, simulation control, and we need to find flaps down. Now that is going to be up in the list somewhere. Flaps. Increment. That's all we need. When you're putting flaps down, you're actually incrementing your flaps, you're extending the flaps, and when you're bringing them back in, you're decreasing them, decrementing them if you like. So I'm going to for increase, flaps increase, we need that one there. Okay, that's all well and good. Click on save, save again. We now need to click on flaps up in a similar kind of way. Select simulation control, and this time we need flaps decrease, that one. So let's see if this works. Go back into the flight sim. As you can see again, the button is working quite nicely. What I'm going to do, go back into FSX, and in fact, let me just move my webcam again. I think it's in the way slightly. Yep, there we go. Right, the flaps are here in the Cessna. This is the flap setting. In fact, I think it's already gone down one. So I'm going to hit flaps up. I'm going to hit this switch up, and you should see the flaps retract all the way. This should go up to the top. Let's try it. There we go. Flaps up. If you want them down, we press this switch down, and the flap switch here goes down as well. Let's put them down again. All good. And if you want a quick external view, let's see if we can get an external view of this. Might be able to. There we go. As you can see, the flaps are extended at the moment. I'm trying to get a better view than that. There we go. That's probably a better one. So again, my camera's in the way again, isn't it? Hang on a sec. Let's see if I can move this out the way somewhere, or make it a little bit smaller. I was trying to make it small. I'm not sure if I can. Oh, there we go. Right. So again, the flaps are extended at the moment. The flaps are down. So I'm going to put them up with this button. There we go. The flaps are now being retracted, and all the way in. So that's how we set up the flaps as well. So I think that just about actually covers it. Again, as you can see, if you have the registered version, you can set up things with your Pro yoke. It says here the feature is only available in the registered version of SPAD. All configurations will have no effect. So you can go ahead and try setting it up, but it won't have any effect. Similarly with the throttle quadrant, the G27 racing wheel, if you have one of those, you can set that up with this as well, and the pedals. you need the registered version for each of those. For my mind, because I've only got the 2 devices, I'm quite happy with the free version. I've got the switch panel, the multi-panel. I'm going to head off now, and I'm going to configure all of the other buttons and switches. I hope you have success, and I hope you've liked this video. I hope it's proved useful to you. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comment box below. And if you've liked the video, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye.